Legends are very hard to come by in the NBA. There are plenty of players in the categories on the way up to them. Great starters are everywhere.
He has already fouled out. Sacramento would be really short of bigs. Conley hesitates to move off balance, puts it in!
All-stars are named every year.
Ladies and gentlemen, why don't you go get an all-star ballot right now and punch in my name. That's right. Remember, it's Chris Bosh.
And all NBA guys become staples of the league.
I thought it was going to be hard. Oh, he stared at Wesley.
But it's hard to find those guys that can turn the basketball world on its head. Someone like LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, or Michael Jordan. Today we're going to talk about the next one up, an international point guard who has taken the reins from Dirk and turned the Mavericks back into the spotlight again. Luka Doncic is pulling off the unimaginable. Let's get into it. At just 23 years old and 5 seasons into his career, Doncic has quickly acclimated to the elevation of being one of the best players in the league. This season, he is currently averaging 34 points, 8.8 rebounds and 8.7 assists. Nearly a 30-point triple-double. If you would buy a ticket to a Dallas Mavericks game right now, the odds are you're about to see something magical. I mean, more likely than not, you're at least seeing a man put something together that most players can only dream of. If the season would end today, Luka's season average would be 16th on the all-time list of points per game in the regular season. Less than a single point behind players like Kareem, Elgin Baylor and prime James Harden. His career average points per game of 27.3 rockets him to 4th all-time. The only thing holding him back from being entered into such record books is he hasn't even played enough games to qualify. Luka has just passed 300 games and needs another 100 to be counted in those levels of standings. The books aren't even built for this level of success. Also, his career assist average would put him 13th all time. To quickly showcase how ridiculous that is for the point forward, LeBron is 24th. So, with this rate of success, could Doncic make that long trek up to the Mount Rushmore of NBA legends? Could he become the next face of a global league? Honestly, I think he could, and I don't even feel like that's just some hot take. After Luka's 245th game, a statistical comparison was done between his games and LeBron's first 245. Luka won in almost every major category, plus Luka had 121 double-doubles versus LeBron's 61. You can say that's somewhat of a random comparator, but I think it's still important. It showcases how dominant Doncic can be in more ways than just scoring. He can set up his teammates or grab the board night in and night out. Through his half-court dissections of defenses to find the open man or impressive footwork inside to get a bucket, Luka isn't some one-trick pony. He'll hit you with a floater after coming off a screen and then following it up on the next play with an absurd step-back three. It does not seem like Luka is ever going to turn himself into the most athletic guy on the court. A scenario for most NBA greats. Players like Kobe would push 3 workouts into one day, or someone like LeBron who spends $1.5 million a year on keeping his body in perfect shape. But Luka still finds a way to dominate the league almost every night, and what he lacks in physicality, he overcomes instantly with his IQ of the game. He can pull off insane runs, like we're about to get into, and then sum it up by saying he needs a beer in the post-game interview. The series of 5 games in the final week of December is the real catalyst to ignite all these talks of Luka. In a 5-game stretch, 3 of those games had 50 plus points. Already off the bat, no one in league history has had that kind of run. Another thing about those 5 games, where Luka managed to turn from a 23-year-old kid to Wilt Chamberlain himself, he is the first player ever in a 5-game span to score over 225 points, 50 rebounds and 50 assists. Just like Wilt did back in his time, Luka is starting to create a flat-out whole other level to the game. And then, there's the game that broke NBA Twitter and had every sports talk show talking about the ridiculousness that has come out of Slovenia. Luka finished against the Knicks with a stat line of 60 points, 21 rebounds and 10 assists. I feel like a broken record here, but man, again, no one has done this. Wilt the Stilt has not touched 60-20-10, Jordan hasn't touched it, Bird is out, Kareem is gone, LeBron is over in LA watching with Patrick Beverley and Westbrook sitting next to him. If you still think this is remotely a hot take, you aren't watching the games. He is the 4th player with multiple 50, 5 and 5 games at 23 years old or younger, joining LeBron, Rick Barry and fellow young superstar Jason Tatum. And that list of players perfectly brings us to the closing statement. Now another big storyline this season is LeBron James eclipsing Kareem for the most points in NBA history. He'll easily get it before this season and cement himself above everyone. So theoretically, if Luka is putting these ridiculous numbers up at his age, could he get to the top of that someday? Or at least close? Well, the short answer of running his averages is yes. It would take him around the same amount of time as LeBron, a 20-year career. But here's the real fun part about Luka and this whole discussion. He says he doesn't want to play that long. He was very clear in an interview that playing for 20 years in the NBA, like LeBron or Kareem, is not of interest to him. He'd much rather go back to Slovenia than spend his entire 20s and 30s in the States. So with something like that in mind, how much does longevity matter? Let's say he runs an incredible 13 years, but then bows out. Could he still become one of the GOATs? Michael Jordan did 13 years, if you don't count the Wizard years like society has agreed to do. It would mean Doncic has 8 more seasons to grow his trophy case and personal record book. This means it's also up to the Mavericks front office to put a winning roster around this guy as soon as possible. At the time of this recording, the team is 4th in the West, but the NBA right now is full of talented teams. And however Luka has shown to be an outstanding playoff performer, I doubt that Luka Doncic can beat a fully healthy Bucks, Warriors or Celtics team. If Luka is truly to chase the GOATs in the NBA before he goes back and chases them on his farm in Slovenia, then the team is going to need to step it up. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment where you think Luka could end up on the all-timers list, and I'll catch you all in the next one.